start the recording. And hello, Hatters, and welcome to the Squid Game Season 2 discussion. This is something that I've been wanting to do really since Season 1 came out. And because of Squid Game, the challenge, it really gave an opportunity to discuss it. And fair warning, there are potentially just some of the images that I have will are spoilers for Squid Game the challenge. I don't mention who specifically won, but it does have. Let me get my glasses actually. Sorry about that. Now I have my good seeing glasses, so I can actually look at this. I wish I could play the theme song, but that's copyrighted to hell. But that would be just imagine the theme song playing in the background, or just put it on yourself. That would have been that would be super cool if I could have gotten away with that. But yeah, no. Although, does the crab game audio not get flagged? I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. But yeah. So we're just gonna go through. This is obviously also going to some of the images and some of the conversation topics might spoil a bit of season 1. I'll try to keep it like out of spoiler territory, but yeah, if you've watched the show, this is more for people who have watched at least the first season, and maybe not necessarily care about the Squid Game challenge, or either they do care and have seen it, but yeah, for the challenge, there's going to be one image, and I'll preface that when we get there. But yeah, I just first like to apologize for. I'm recording on Saturday, dating this, but even though I mentioned in the last the finale of Squid. Why did I say Squid Game? Finale of Squid Game. No, the finale of my randomizer that I would try to get in on Friday. I unfortunately could not get in on Friday. Everything's alright, just family stuff, like personal stuff, like spending time with family, not like anything bad or anything like that. So just yeah, there's just spending time with family and friends and stuff. So sometimes that gets in the way. Sometimes life gets in the way. It finds a way to get in the way. But anyway, now I'm done rambling with my opening monologue. Squid Game. Squid Game. I think we'll just go ahead and see, like, as far as with where season 1 started, with the idea of playing children's games in this life or death situation is such an interesting concept, and I love it. I'm not like, I didn't understand like how obsessive the phenomenon became, but I did enjoy the show, and I never quite got on the super obsessive train, but it was a solid show, and I am glad it's getting a second season. And but I'm honestly surprised it got as much attention as it did. But it is, I think the themes and stuff are probably why a lot of people really, really enjoyed it, and for better or worse, whether you agree with them or not. Just the critiques that it had of is kind of what probably elevated it, and probably why some people were a little more into it than some of the other, than maybe what I would have, which is just kind of, I've seen a lot of these elimination game shows and movies through like anime and stuff, but yeah, so maybe I was just a little numb to it. I do think the critique with the capitalism gives this sort of an edge over some of those other stories. It's definitely a lot more interesting of a story. But as for where it could go for season two, really, I think one of the interesting things, and I don't know if this would need to be done, and this kind of is hinted at with the new, with the American reality show, but I think like one thing that would be interesting to see is a more. I mean, I think they could just stick with uh, the South Korean situation. I think they could just easily have just a bunch of new characters and a bunch of new uh, Korean characters, and they already kind of did a little bit of this, where it's like. But I think one thing that would be interesting is bringing more people from around the world, um, and maybe potentially expanding it to other places. Now, I think the core Squid Game and the main characters are still, it's still probably going to be more Korean based, and I think it should remain that way. But I think like having some characters from all around the world that are also in these high stakes situations that the main characters found themselves in, like these sort of like in severe debt and all this other stuff. Like in a more worldly perspective, there's a lot of people that would be in uh, that would that this could expand to, like, and it not just South Korean, like people in South Korea. Now the language issue or language barrier might be an issue with something like that, and that would be a big challenge for that. But I think this is kind of also hinted at in the first season, and potentially maybe this would be something where it's like maybe not necessarily season two, but after season two, if season two becomes is really successful as well, and then potentially a spin-off series, and this could easily be, this almost seems like this is where the story is going based on some of the stuff in the first season, especially the VIPs. Let me make sure this image, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, the VIPs, like, really, the fact that they're uh like just foreign. I don't know if they're foreign actors. They're, but like, yeah, like they're like clearly from overseas. They're not in Korean culture. Um, they're very much a. I mean, I think a lot of them are Americans. So yeah, it definitely primes that idea for uh, expansion into other countries when it comes to um, how Squid Game is evolving, how the story is changing, and that definitely is something that is a conflict that somebody like I forget his name, but he's the main character. It's been it's been so long since I've seen the first season. Um, let me go back. 456. Yeah, the 456 is the character who wears the number 456. terrible that I can't remember his name. He was the main character, but uh, yeah, unfortunately, also like it is that thing where unfortunately with especially with names, South Korean names, I'm usually better with Japanese names than South Korean names, but yeah, unfortunately that's just like something that like my brain doesn't work well with that. But yeah, but anyway, I think that's where this story could go, is just expanding into other uh, countries, other like trying to find different people in those dire situations that to play the Squid Game. Maybe it just has like a handful of players and maybe one main character to start off with. But yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like uh yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily be like, oh, this huge uh like, oh, like it doesn't have to be like putting the main character in a completely different competition with all these other um, either like foreign speaking people. It doesn't necessarily have to be that extreme. It can just be like bringing a couple of uh, international um, characters into Squid Game, into the competition. Oh shoot, I forgot to put. Okay, so you saw this. This is where I would also say the games can also influence that and have Western influence on some of the games. Obviously, one of the biggest games, one of the most that could easily replace something like Tug of War, which is also a Western game. So it's actually, I don't know where Tug of War originated. I'd have to really like deep dive into these uh to find the true origin of some of these games, but um aside from that, I would just say that dodgeball would be a fun way to either eliminate a whole bunch of players or eliminate a team of players. Now, I don't know how this would particularly work. Like, would somebody who got eliminated still be eliminated? Like, if somebody eliminated from the game still be eliminated, because there are rules with dodgeball that if you catch the ball, you could bring somebody back in. Would they just not have that rule and just be like, hey, if you're out, then you get killed? Um, I feel like that would be a brutal situation. I think that could easily fit into um, uh, Squid Game, and it would be interesting because even though you're on a team like the tug of war situation, you could still have players on your team eliminated, but your team itself would not be fully could not fully be eliminated. So it would definitely whittle the numbers well down to just a few. But I think it would be an interesting thing to see, and it's we've kind of already see this in the video game, and I mentioned it earlier, Crab Game, where there are certain games in that which is basically a knockoff, but it's a video game. But yeah, there's kind of like there's already a dodgeball esque game in that, but it only has two teams, so it's not as it wouldn't be like the Now, I think another interesting aspect. So this could either be, like I said, replacing tug of war and whittling it down to just a tiny few, um, or it could end up being the first game replacing uh, red light, green light, and just have like a massive area, like split the whole team, a massive area. There's a time limit. Anyone that gets eliminated in that time limit is gone, and so it's just becomes the survival. Uh, and then yeah, like just being like it, having a time limit, and whoever remains, like it's your goal wouldn't be to like one half of the team or one team wins. It's just don't get hit, and that would be an interesting twist on it. But then I don't know why you would split them into teams. So it's definitely, it would be an interesting to see where it goes. But I think the most likely scenario would be the tug of war situation. Um, that is probably the most likely scenario where a game like this would be played. Um, And as I mentioned with Crab Game, they also have some games that could easily find their way into the Squid Game show. For instance, this is either tag or hide and seek, um, and those could be interesting. I'm not really sure how you would eliminate people with like something like tag. Um, I think in the in Crab Game, it's interesting because you have a stick and you tag people with a stick, uh, and then I guess, and then they get the stick. So, um, yeah, it'd be interesting how that works, and but I think it's more interesting as a theory of how could they put like a game like this or hide and seek, for instance. I think tag is probably less likely because it's harder to feel like, well, how do you decide who gets eliminated just if they get tagged? Um, I feel like it's and then it's like, but whoever starts the tag, maybe like if they don't tag people within a certain time, then they are eliminated. But yeah, I don't know how that would work. But hide and seek would be a little bit more um, nuanced. Like I feel like hide and seek has a little bit more of of a rule. I guess like the idea is that if you're it by the time that the thing ends, it would uh, eliminate you. Like that you would get eliminated. Uh, but with hide and seek, it would just be, do you like, you would search for people, and then if you found somebody, they would um I guess it would be a time limit thing, and if you found somebody, they get eliminated. uh but I don't know how that would. I feel like this could these could only really work, and this could be an interesting situation, but I feel like these types of games would only work in a three-person scenario, um, where it's literally just eliminating one person. Because if you're playing hide and seek, and you find somebody, then it's your turn to hide, and they have to find either you or the other person. So it could be a way to, and then just the idea is that at the end of it, whoever is still it is eliminated. So it could be an interesting way to do that, and to have an actual game decide to eliminate that third person instead of the um, scenario in the original show, which I don't want to well, or the first season. I mean, um, I don't know if I'm not gonna get into all the details of what happened with how the final three became two. But yeah, I'm just gonna say leave it at that and say hide. It could be an interesting way to have a game decide that particular um, uh, to have like an actual like game decide who are the final two, as opposed to just well, yeah, if you've seen the show, you know what it is. Also, King of the Hill would be another interesting concept. Um, this is also from Crap Game, but King of the Hill, like, I don't think it would be something that's similar to this. Uh, but like the idea of getting to the top of a hill, getting to the top of something, um, I don't think it would work like this where it's got all the platforms and everything. It's more like a platforming thing. I think there's a really interesting way they could do that with an iconic piece of equipment with of playground equipment, and that would be with this particular geometric. Uh, I don't know what to call it, but just a uh, yeah, I mean a jungle gym, I guess, is what I've always kind of referred to it as. But I know jungle gym's kind of just a generic term. But yeah, so this sort of like hexagon well, it's not hexagon; they're triangles, but you know what I'm saying. Sometimes they're hexagons, sometimes they're other shapes. But the idea would be that at a certain point is the top or the king like area, the how you get to the top, um, and then you just climb. Like this could be a really interesting if it's big enough. Uh, interesting, like because it could be like a literal mountain size uh, thing of these particular climbs, and it's just the idea is reach the top. If you can stay at the top for uh, if you can stay at the top, then you win, or then you move on to the next. Not win, but move on to the next. So there'd probably be like a line, like a yellow line, and if you get above that yellow line, then you're safe. But this could also, especially if you've got the full 456 people going at this one thing, it just create an insane, uh, just or just even like a large number. It would just, I think it would be a really interesting visual for a season two. Um, and I think it'd be really unique to see just how that would work. Um, and just like the idea of climbing to the top of this thing, and um, it see certain people betraying other people, pushing them down while they're trying to. It'd be just an insane mess, but visually such an insane mess that it would be chaos, and I think it'd be very interesting. So like yeah, like if it just has like a yellow line or something, and it's just like a solid color, like just solid color, and then it's got a yellow line like maybe where this purple line is. Yeah, that would be um, very interesting to see how this. But yeah, like this where this purple line is, but also this basically just extends on forever and outward and forever, like just for not forever, but for essentially this would be like the peak of like a mountain sized sculpture, and essentially yeah, like it'd be interesting to see how the people on the top work. Either some people might work together to say, "Hey, I'm let's we're cool, and then other people might just try to push people down. And I think an interesting shot would be somebody that's at the top above the line getting shoved through one of the holes. Sorry. Oops. Sorry. That was accidentally clicked. But yeah. So yeah, just getting through, like seeing somebody fall through one of those holes all the way down through like a mountain-sized thing could be just like a crazy looking death in a new Squid Game season. Obviously, another one from Crab Game, Floor is Lava. Obviously, you wouldn't have real lava, but it's just another thing where it's like tag. It's like it's one of those games that it's kind of so iconic that you kind of have to mention it. It's like tag or hide and seek, where it's kind of, but I don't know how it would necessarily work if unless they have like actual like acid or something, like something that can fill the plate put be put in place instead of lava. Uh, because yeah, obviously just regular water wouldn't work unless it's just like the idea is like, oh, it is water, and they fall in the water, and then they get shot if you fall in the water. Um, so that could be a thing, but um, yeah, as of right, I just don't see. Again, obviously, not real lava, but that kind of like ruins the bit if if it's not actually real lava. Um, I mean, unless they are literally playing this in a volcano, like above a volcano or something, but I don't see that happening. It doesn't seem like they're gonna go the full Bond route, where it's just a villain, the where the freaking headquarters of the bad guys are in a volcano. I guess that's more that almost seems Austin Powers like, but I guarantee it's probably been in a Bond movie as well. But anyway, yeah, it's just it'd be interesting to see how they would bring it about, but I don't really expect this to be in the second season or any season really. But it'd just be an interesting game to see how they would. Just interesting to see how they would interpret it. A big game would be, and this could potentially be a way to eliminate it down to the final three, is Foursquare. Um, and I didn't really go through as far as let me see. I haven't really gone through how these games are played and stuff. Uh, yeah, I haven't really mentioned exactly how the games are. I haven't really gone through the full like details of how they're played, um, or the rules of them. And I guess I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like if you've played them as a kid, uh, you kind of expect one. This one, I don't know if everybody has played Foursquare as a child, so I'll try to be a little bit more generous with that. And why I say it can be eliminated down to three people is that this is how, like, actually this 1, 2, 3, 4 is the actual order. Like the fourth one is the first person in the square. Um, and this has it in a different way. I don't know which way it rotates. You can have it sometimes be where it's like the first one, second one, third one, fourth one. It doesn't really, it can be just like first, second, third, fourth, like this one is, and just clockwise. And this spot would essentially be the king spot. This is at least the way I played it. This would be the king spot, which means it's the player that's been in the longest. So, or the player that um, that it's 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 called the king spot because it's the top spot in the square, and usually it's by the person who's been there longest. This is the queen, jack, and then this, I don't remember what this one's called, but yeah, this is just the that's how I remembered it, but it could just be the first square, the second square, third square, fourth square, and the fourth square is the one you want to get to. Um, Now the thing is, if you get eliminated, you usually just go back into the line. I don't know if that would be the same with with the Squid Game situation, but maybe it would, because if the idea of eliminating down to three would be that the three people that are in the top squares are the winners, and so the person in the third square and everyone waiting in line would be eliminated. So the top three squares are safe. The first square is not, and so it puts pressure on the person in the first square to eliminate someone so they can get into another square. So that's essentially how the game works. If somebody gets eliminated, uh, they move back to the back of the line, and then this person moves up, and that's how you move up, and that's how you could eventually get to this king spot. Although I now that I'm looking at, the A might be the king spot and the D might be the first square. But yeah, however they decide it, whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise. Uh, yeah, the point is to get to a. I think I did a zigzag whenever I used to play, so it would be like this square, then this square, then this square. But I mean, it's whatever order you decide. Um, so it could be clockwise, it could be counterclockwise, it could be just whatever. Um, I don't think that the order of the squares. This just depends on which is the starting square, which is the ending square, is all that really matters. Um, or actually, which is the starting square is all that really matters, because if you get eliminated, then they need to know which uh, square they need to go to. So everybody moves up, and then the new person comes in, and that's kind of how that game is typically played. And like I said, this could whittle down like like a smaller group, like five to um, like a group from like five to, like, I guess 10, maybe not 10, but a group like of like 5 to um, 7 down to 3. And I think that could be a real interesting way to do that. Interesting way to whittle it down just um, to just 3 people. And I think it'd be a really fun episode. Not fun, but obviously, because it's like the high stakes situation. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see. And it's like the idea of putting all the pressure on, the idea of that, like, the person who gets in the first square has a lot of pressure put on them uh, to eliminate somebody. Um, and then everybody else just has the pressure of not getting eliminated and not being sent back to the back of the line. And especially when the game starts getting towards the end, that kind of pressure builds. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. and I think it could be a really uh, it would be just really entertaining, um, and as a game for as a Squid game in the Squid Game. Squid Games. I don't know. I can't remember if it's plural or not. Another one, uh, common playground thing is just monkey bars, and I think it would be interesting to see how this would work. Um, I'm guessing it would probably be like uh, probably like the stepping stones in place of that. Um, this is not a super great image of monkey bars, uh, but yeah, like just the idea of just depending on how certain people want to go across, they would just go across either just the regular underneath, or it's because there's always going to be some players that it wouldn't be against the rules, but they could bend the rules a little bit and start and climb up and walk across the top. Um, and maybe they're so spread out that they're like that it's actually more of a physical challenge to do this. Um, so it'd be interesting to see how that would work. Um, but yeah, like it would. But yeah, like I think it'd also be interesting to see the people that run across the top. Are they stepping on people's hands while they walk across? Are they like deliberately trying to sabotage other players? And I think that would be just kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it's like obviously the goal is just to get to the end, like in Skipping Stones. But is it Skipping Stones or I forget what it's called, but it's the one where it's got the one false and one real. But anyway, yeah, this would just be an interesting replacement for that. And I'd be very curious to see how that would work. Um, and anyway, I guess next one would be rock paper scissors. And interestingly, this was actually played in Squid Game. So the next slide is going to be the potential spoiler. It was not. I was not expecting it to be where it was uh, as a game in that. In fact, when originally in the Squid Game uh, show, when I was watching the show, and I saw the people get yeah, them getting broken off into two, I immediately thought rock paper scissors, and that would have been really interesting to see when it comes to the um when it comes to like uh um instead of like the marbles, just a rock paper scissors, just what would you decide the best of? Like what, like best of how many? It's obviously the same game universally. Um, but yeah, like that's originally what I thought it was going to be because I knew they were going to be. It was going to be something whenever they paired together, and they were like, "This is the person you'll," and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna be eliminating each other." I kind of figured that was going to be the case whenever I was watching originally, but I thought it was going to be this game that would decide it, but it ended up being marbles, which I enjoyed the marbles stuff, and it's kind of disappointed with the marble stuff uh, um, in coming back to Squid Game: The Challenge. I was kind of disappointed that nobody actually played marbles. And there's actually an interesting point in Squid Game: The Challenge, and this is starting to get into spoiler territories, where it was going to be like someone was going to get an advantage in the next game. Um, yeah, so that was my warning. but somebody was going to get an advantage in the next game, and the game happened to be marbles, which got me thinking. I'm like, what would be an advantage to it? And I immediately thought, like, would they have gotten like a Chinese checkered board or Chinese checkers board? And the idea would be that they would just potentially have the chance to uh, play with some, like, essentially they would still be playing with uh, the person that they're they would still be playing with the person, but they wouldn't necessarily have to be against each other. So that kind of made me think, like, oh, that could have been the advantage. The advantage could have helped multiple people, and but unfortunately, we never got to see the advantage, um, uh, due to reasons that I'm not going to get into that spoiler. But this uh, next slide is going to be a spoiler, and yeah, this was actually, and yeah, I'll talk about the spoiler itself because I was surprised that rock paper scissors in this. I was very impressed with what they did with it in the um, Squid Game, the challenge, because they actually made it. If you could tell by their outfits, they made it the finale, and that was really interesting to see a game like rock paper scissors as the finale. And I like the way that they did it. Um, that it gave them multiple chances, and the way they did it gave them multiple chances and multiple uh, ways to, like, where it could literally either one of them could have won at that point. It's just a matter of it was basically a matter of chance, but there's also, like, depending on, like, obviously because rock paper scissors is, it's not just pure chance because you kind of have to anticipate what the other player is going to do. Actually, let me see if, yeah, that looks good. But yeah, like, it was very interesting to see it come down to rock paper scissors. But I don't know if that would be the best way to implement rock paper scissors if they were going to do it in um Squid Game season 2, which, to be fair, I think because we see it in Squid Game the challenge probably means that we're not going to see it in Squid Game season 2. Um but yeah, like, I think it would be, I think this is probably going to be where we see a game like rock paper scissors take place, is just in something like this. Um, but I think it would have been interesting to see it in the instead of marbles. Um, and maybe that could be a second season of either one, whether it be they play it in uh, uh, they play it in that, like, sand square area instead of the marbles, because it's like, well, you could play rock paper scissors and you just get to choose how many times. But yeah, it'd be interesting, just um after how many times, best two, like, usually call, okay, best 2 out of 3 or best, yeah, like, whatever. um and I feel like a lot of people would just say best 2 out of 3, but there might be, I would be curious to see how many people would be like best 4 out of 7, or best, like, best of 9 or something like that. It'd be interesting to see how far they want to extend it. Um, but, like, so that's why I feel like it would be interesting for that particular thing, whether it be in Squid Game the challenge or the regular Squid Game. Probably not going to be in the regular Squid Game, if I'm being honest. Okay, now we're back at another situation that's very similar to uh, a very similar situation to that could be played in the sand as well. I just use this because this is a very common playground uh, implement or common playground version of the game. Uh, but yeah, tic tac toe would be again could be played in the sand. Could easily be played in the sand area, and they just keep going, and it's like best 2 out of 3, best whatever. Um, just deciding that, and I think this would actually be a little bit more interesting for the actual Squid Game show, season 2. This would be more interesting in place of marbles rather than I think something like rock paper scissors where it's just literally just one go and then or however many times out of that, because this could actually like you could end up tying so many times that you run out of time. So it'd actually be really like, but you could also, yeah, and it might just end up being like a situation where it's like uh both players want to win and refuse to be the one to lose. I don't know. It could offer some really much more interesting dynamics than just like rock paper scissors, which would just be like, okay, I choose, yeah, like where it's just literally the same, like, yeah, and there's a lot more strategy involved with something like tic tac toe. So I think it could be really interesting to adapt to something like Squid Game or Squid Games. Again, not sure if it's Squid Game or Squid Games. Um, I'm not going back to see the thing, but anyway, I just think that would be interesting as a replacement to marbles. Um, I think that's the perfect spot for it. It works well in that sand area, because that is still an iconic like visual area. Like it looked so cool, and I hope they keep like certain things like that intact, but obviously play different games in those areas. Um, and that would just be more cost effective too, because they still have the set, obviously. But anyway, yeah, that's where I think this a game like this could go, and this would actually be my pick for what I would hope to see in season 2, instead of marbles, if they don't just redo marbles, which I don't think they should. Um, yeah, so I feel like dodgeball is one. Foursquare, dodgeball, foursquare, and tic tac toe are like 3 ones that I would really like to see. Some of these other ones that I've mentioned, hide and seek, like I said, hide and seek would be interesting if it were the final 3, and it just eliminates the last person who doesn't get or the person who doesn't find anybody, um, or by the end of the time just is it. So I think that's the only way that tag or um, hide and seek could work. Um, but yeah, let me take a look at this. Um, Squid Games. It is Squid Game, not Squid Games. Um, that's kind of blowing my mind. Uh, but yeah, Squid Game is very interesting. Yeah, like I feel like the King of the Hill was another one. It was either King of the Hill and Dodgeball would replace like Tug of War. Um, if King of the Hill is like the starting, uh, but those are the ones that I would love to see. Um, Yeah, and I think that kind of like I think if I'm really tilting my hand, dodgeball, either tag or hide and seek for the final three, King of the Hill with the Jungle Gym at as the beginning game instead of red light green light. So essentially, yeah, that as the beginning game with instead of red light green light. Dodgeball as instead of tug of war. I think there's a game in between it, but I'm just going in order of what I would love to see. Yeah, that one. Maybe they do include some other traditional Korean games because there's a lot of stuff that I've never even heard of with like, especially in the first game. So it was interesting to see that cultural perspective. But yeah, like but I think if they're going to add some more American games, uh, King of the Hill, which isn't necessarily American, because that kind of stuff happens in. I know there's like there's another game in. I think it's a Japanese game though, about like it's very similar to King of the Hill. Um, but yeah, like that would be a very interesting game for sure. So the first one would be the King of the Hill with that big jungle gym um, idea as an idea. Um, I don't know what the second game would be. Maybe that'll be a later game. Um, and I know I'm stuck on this. I'll get to the next games and then we can kind of discuss that at the end. But yeah, um, Double Dutch again. Not sure if this would be the best. I don't think this would necessarily work, but it'd be interesting to see how they would how people would get eliminated. Obviously, if you get hit, if you stop the rope, the person that stopped the rope would get eliminated. But this might be something where it would whittle people down to like yeah, I don't know how that would work because you'd need four people uh, at all times. So I would guess that the two people swinging the rope um would be the actual uh, game uh, like the masked people. So that they would just be the ones rotating the rope or swinging the rope, and then just however many people. That would be an interesting way to see how that would work because it would just be like a one. Yeah, it essentially have to replace. Uh, Either it'd be the final one or it would have to replace. Uh, um, it would have to replace the marbles game where what one lives and one gets eliminated. Uh, or one moves forward, one gets eliminated. Okay, actually that doesn't look good, but that way, there. Okay. Uh, Whoops. Yeah, but yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see. But again, I feel like something like tic tac toe probably going to take the spot. This might be a good like season 3 potential for that like 1v1 game. Um, but yeah, I don't see this really in season 2. Um, it'd be interesting, and or it'd either be like season 3 or, like I said, in a spin off show, um, set in America because this is a very like New York thing. I think it originated in New York. So yeah, it's very much a American sport. But yeah, and again, like I said, I don't know the origins of everything. I think dodgeball was originated in America, but yeah, as far as everything else on this list, there might be some other things that don't originate in America. Like yeah, like rock paper scissors. I think is German maybe originally. Um, Tag and hide and seek are probably like as old as time. Um, Probably same with floor is lava and stuff like that. But yeah, like I think I don't know where Foursquare. Foursquare might have been America, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like England or something. Anyway, yeah, that's Double Dutch, and just be that's kind of where I feel like a game like this would end up being, is either the final two or in that 1v1 scenario of marbles. Cornhole. Speaking of 1v1 versus like uh 1v1 versus 1v1 eliminating for like marbles and stuff, like replacement for marbles. Yeah, this is if you don't really know the game, it's essentially just it's as simple as just throwing it into trying to get the beanbags into the hole. Whoever gets the most wins. That's as simple as that. So you have like a set amount of beanbags, and then you throw them. But yeah, it'd be this one again. It's less of a. This one's less of a. This one's more like a tailgate, like at a sports event type, like you're just hanging out in a parking lot of a sports event more so than a or like you're having a barbecue or a party in your backyard or something, and this is more like a party game like that, as opposed to a like a playground or schoolyard game. But yeah, it could still work in that vein, but in like Squid Games or something. It's just simple as it would just be simple enough that you would just it just be a 1v1 game. Whether it just it doesn't have a lot of variety to it, which is why I feel like something like, again, very similarly, tic tac toe can be a little bit more. You can formulate a little bit more narratives around different players and different. So I feel like this one, it's just like, does it go in the hole? Does it miss? It's very simple, but maybe simple might be better in some of these games, and particularly the 1v1 game. Hopscotch. For this one, I feel like this could easily replace stepping stones. And the idea would be two people go across, like they go across two at a time. And whoever makes it across first wins. The other one is eliminated. And then it could just be on the same stepping stones. As soon as I saw stepping stones, I was like, hopscotch would be interesting here. But yeah, you essentially throw a stone. Whichever number it hits, you go that many spaces. I don't know the full rules of it, but that's just how I always thought it was. On the one spaces, you can only use 1 foot or something. I don't know the full. That's my basic knowledge of hopscotch. It'd be definitely interesting to see what a show like Squid Game could like really dive into this is how hopscotch is supposed to be played. And then it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's definitely something that yeah. So it's definitely something that like I don't know if it would be um, if it would work like that, or if it would be um, uh, yeah. I just don't know how it would be, like what the official rules are, if there are any official rules. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how something like Squid Game, like I said, it'd be cool to see two people doing this side by side. And the thing is like two people could get eliminated in the same thing if somebody like loses their balance and falls into the pit, which I assume this would be, again, like I said, above the pit, like skipping stones was, or stepping stones. I don't remember what it's called, skipping or stepping stones. I think it's stepping stones. Red Rover is another game that I feel like could be utilized, very much so like uh, red light, green light. But the problem with this, instead of red light, green light, it'd more than likely replace uh, it'd more than likely replace like tug of war. Um, I think this could very well be a different thing, similar thing to tug of war. But the idea with Red Rover is you join hands like that. One person from one team goes across and tries to run through the arms of the other people and tries to break uh, their sort of like link. Um, it would be very interesting to see like if if they did do it with a much larger group. I think would be a lot more interesting than just a tug of war scenario. So like the idea that, well, because it wouldn't just be which team won, because if somebody doesn't break through, then they get eliminated. But if somebody breaks through, the two people that had their hands together would get eliminated. So if that's the case, then that would be very interesting to see in like two lines of like very very long. And actually this would probably be a good second game if that's how they did it, like just two lines of very very long uh of just very very long line, two very very long lines of just all of the people in the game, and just go down the line, go down line of this one, the first person on this line, first person on this line, and then just go back, and they just keep trying, and then until they get all the way to the end. Yeah, that would be very interesting to see how that would work, for something like Squid Game. This is less for Squid Game and more for Squid Game. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But this is less for Squid Game and more for Squid Game the Challenge. I don't know about Jenga, but yeah, like definitely Connect Four. Actually, Jenga could work too. Um, if for Squid Game the Challenge, these would be two really good games of. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this I don't know why I put myself on this side, uh, for this, but um, maybe because it's a discussion. Maybe I'm gonna start doing that. When it's a discussion, I'll put myself on this side of the screen. I don't know why I didn't even address it at this point. Why I'm addressing this when it's a discussion, I'll put myself on this side of the screen. On this side, my camera's first. Or no, I don't know if it's reversed. It's mirrored, so you would see as if you were looking at me. So yeah, so it is mirrored. Um, I think. I don't know. How's my lids up in post? Just look. I can't read that. I can't read that small. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Uh, Connect Four and Jenga. So like I said, is more as a suggestion for uh this is more as a suggestion for um Squid Game the challenge. Connect Four would be very simple, uh a very simple situation like Battleship was, and spoil I guess uh I probably should have said spoiler on that one, but I've been talking about things in that. But yeah, like instead of tug of war, they played Battleship. So um, yeah, so that was an interesting uh, game to see. But the thing that I think would be that Connect Four could do something much better uh, than something like Battleship is you could actually see the other team, like because the whole point of Battleship is you can't see the other team. That's the whole, like you're not allowed to see them. This would kind of be a little bit more friendly kind of a game. So that's why I feel like it'd be better for Squid Game the challenge as opposed to um, actual Squid Game. And same with Jenga. I feel like they're just much more friendly games. Um, Jenga could be. I could see Jenga though being in actual Squid Game if they were allowed to. The problem with these two games is they are. I believe they are copyrighted, so that's why. Same with Battleship. That's why something like Connect Four would have to work in conjunction in something more like um, something more like uh, Squid Game the challenge. But yeah, like I think Connect Four would be more fun because the holes in the Connect Four would literally see to the other side, and you could literally see the other people, and I think that would be a lot more cool looking for like Squid Game the challenge, and I think it would be a lot more fun for I guess like just to see how they interact with each other with the Connect Four wall, and just see how they see each other, like how they interact with people on the other side of the Connect Four wall, since they can actually see them instead of with the instead of with the it'd be another layer, like just to see like okay, let's see what they're kind of like yeah, like because they're allowed to they would be allowed to see the other person, or not other person but other team, um and how they're like they could probably like even see how they're thinking, and what direction they look like they might be thinking. But yeah, like it just play the same as that. You have a captain that decides which that captain and whatever that decide with which Connect Four they put. Maybe, and this would be interesting. I don't know. I feel like everybody would just be eliminated if they Connect Four. So I don't feel like there would be um be anything special with that. But with Jenga, Jenga would be a little bit tougher because it's not about like who wins. It's just there's one loser. So I don't know how that would necessarily work in again unless you're playing final three people, uh, which actually would work really well with. I think it would be really really interesting for the final three people, because uh, because in Squid Game the final three people are moved up to a like they're all dressed up and they get dressed up in the suits and ties and everything. Um, I don't think it's bow ties like tuxedos and shit. Um, and there's my first swear word. I was gonna so full disclosure. Usually with my language, I try to keep a little bit of wall depending on what type of content is on there. So like if it's something that's uh like in Pokemon, I try not to say anything. I try not to swear, or if I do swear, it's usually like hell or damn or something like that. It's not anything hard, uh, like an F bomb or something. But I think again, it's trying to adjust my mind to do that on its own is kind of hard without just completely censoring myself, and just not saying anything almost. So it's definitely. Uh, I'm actually kind of happy that I said said that I said shit, and I'll just keep saying it, I guess. But yeah, especially for discussion like this, we're literally talking about Squid Game, which is rated TVMA. I think maybe it's TV-14. I don't think it's TV-14. There's no way it's TV-14. I think it's MA. It's got a. I don't know. I don't know if it has a TV rating. It might be an R rating or something. I don't know. But either way, it's an adult. It's definitely rated more for a mature audience. So it's definitely. I think it's fair for me to swear. But yeah, like if I'm playing an M-rated game, I might swear a little bit more than I would playing like uh, something like Pokemon. Like I said, I might still swear a little bit when I'm playing games like Pokemon, but I try not to swear too much if I'm playing something like Crash or if I were playing something like Crash Bandicoot or Spyro. I probably would try to swear less. Um, but yeah, for something like Twisted Metal is a little bit tougher because it's in that teen rated, so it's not like fully M rated, but yeah. But anyway, that's just a discussion on personal preferences. Just because I slipped up there, although like it's not really a slip up if I already gave the out that this was whatever. Marco Polo is another another game for this next one. I have to start pushing forward in this discussion. Well, I guess I don't have to start pushing forward. Uh, I don't know how this would work. It's something that I wanted to put on here mainly because it is a a game that you play in the pool, and I have yet to see that in a Squid Game. And I think it would be interesting to see a pool game, not billiards, but like literally in a pool, like swimming pool, it'd be interesting to see something like that. And this is the first thing that really came to mind when I think of games you play at the pool as opposed to at the uh, at the playground. As opposed to playground games, this would be a game at the swimming pool. Um, I think it would be very interesting to see something like this. Um, yeah, and they could put it in like a classic like gym uh, pool with, or like kind of like a YMCA pool. At least that's. Although I don't know if they have. I don't know if there's anything similar. They probably don't have a YMCA in South Korea, but they probably have like public swimming pools and stuff, uh, which is probably more accurate for what they're going for, but or probably more like thematically, it would make more sense for like uh, something like that. But yeah, this is just something that I don't know how they would eliminate people. Don't know how they would uh, keep it going, but man, it would be. It's. I'm just curious how a water game would work because when they eliminate somebody, would blood just go everywhere and they'd have to swim in blood? Because that would be brutal for. Obviously, this is the second season of Squid Game, and not like in the actual or in the Squid Game, the challenge. But yeah, like that would be a brutal way that they would do that. But again, very much like tag or hide and seek. Not really sure how this would apply unless it's just three people. And I really wouldn't expect them to do the final three people as with Marco Polo. It'd be a weird game for the final three. Um, Another game, and this is obviously a similar image. I grouped these together by images. This is from the same place. I don't know where specifically that is, and I just grabbed the first thing I could find on like some kind of search. Um, but yeah, this is Capture the Flag, and could end up being a replacement again for Tug of War. There's two teams. One team gets eliminated. It's a very simple. Um, with something like this would it's just you grab the other person's flag, whoever can reach the other team's flag without being tagged or without because reach the other team's whoever reaches the other team's flag position with both flags, I think is the way it works. So yeah, um, again, not going to discuss full on rules with everything, but yeah, so this is definitely one that I'm like, okay, I could see where how this would work. Um, Jacks is another one. I feel like it could replace marbles, but I don't know if would they play this in the sand? I don't think they would because obviously you can't bounce anything on the sand. I actually found out that these were, I think, in the originated in England. I believe at least Wikipedia says that. But anyway, yeah, jacks is you bounce the ball, you try to collect as many jacks as you can. They're all spread out, so it's not as easy, and you try to collect as many as you can before the ball comes down, comes back down. So it's I don't know. I don't know how this would work. Again, like I said, it's a very similar situation to a lot of the games in this, where it would replace the marbles game. Um, but I guess you would just have to have a floor as opposed to all the sand everywhere. Um, but yeah, it would be a very interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it would be very interesting, but it would be different uh, than just marbles. And finally, tetherball, and we started with an image of a movie from, I believe I actually found out they both came out in the same year, so strange, but yeah, 2004, Dodgeball and Napoleon Dynamite. But anyway, yeah, this is uh, let me see. Yeah, so this is tetherball. Obviously, this is what they're playing. And I also like want to point out these. I never talked about these, but these kind of basket things. Um, they're. I feel like it's too similar to basketball. Uh, but yeah, like that could also be a potential game. I just don't remember how they worked or how it was. I know you just try to aim for the thing, and whichever hole, like the holes are numbered, so it's like whichever hole has the most, whoever has the most points at the end. Um, so again, not sure how you would be able to do that with in like Squid Game or anything, but either way, um, that's just wanted to get that out of the way because it is in the shot. But tetherball is the main thing, and this would be a great final game for the especially like wrapping up that whole playground setting. Um, Especially it's like if it's like an American playground setting, the jungle gym, the stuff. This would be the good. This would be a good game to wrap everything up. No pun intended. No. Okay, pun kind of intended, but to wrap everything up. Uh, but so the idea is that it's a volleyball attached to essentially a stick, and then you two people are facing the same way, and they try to hit the tether, or well, the idea is that like the ball is like if the ball wraps around and hits itself on one of the sides. um I'm terrible at explaining this, but essentially, if the cord gets wrapped around, like they're essentially trying to prevent the ball from wrapping around their side of the the stick. Um, but yeah, like that's the gist of the game. If you don't, uh, so you kind of like try to like and whenever it gets to the end and finally coils up and then hits gets to the end of the stick and the ball is completely coiled up, uh, the whoever whose ever side I guess is that it's coiled up on, or whoever, like, because if it goes this way, like goes around, like if it was if the ball gets wrapped around and it starts going this way and wraps around that way, like wraps around starting on this side, then she would lose. If it starts on this side, then he would lose. Um, if it starts wrapping around starting that way. So the idea is like he has to try to move it to go the other way. And this is a good like head to head game that would be very like tense. Um, and when it gets all the way down to like the stick and like everything's coiled up and it essentially bounces back, then that's where the person would lose. So yeah, it's very interesting. It'd be very interesting to see. It's not. Uh, I don't think a lot of people really played it as a kid. I think it's more. I don't know. Maybe once this movie came out, probably people started playing it more as a kid in playgrounds. But I don't remember playing it too much. But yeah, it definitely is an I like it would definitely work for the playground idea of that. So essentially, what I'm looking at is if we were to have the first season of, or not first season, if we were to start the second season, um, I would say start it with King of the Hill in that jungle gym situation, the giant mountain of a jungle gym. That would eliminate a lot of people, but that would essentially replace red light, green light. Um, can't remember what the second game was. Um, what was the second game? Let me look at this because. Oh, was it the honeycomb game? Yeah. It was the honeycomb game. I don't know what would necessarily replace the honeycomb game. Let me see. Um, maybe that's something where dodgeball would happen. Probably dodgeball, and that way you eliminate and just have bigger teams. Um, and just that way it has a bigger scale, a bigger looking scale. So it wouldn't be as big of the teams. So dodgeball could replace that. Um, and let's see, what would the third game be? Third game was tug of war. So if we're putting dodgeball before and not in the tug of war spot, then really that's tough. Oh no, I remember what I was gonna do. Yeah, no, not dodgeball. So my choices would be obviously what I said with King of the Hill, with that, and I just remembered which one I would have as the second game, and not the third game. Was going to be Red Rover, or so Red Rover would be the second game. Dodgeball would be the third game. I think Red Rover would be an interesting second game because you'd have those two like long lines of people, and you just go down the line, and once it gets to the final person is where it all counts. And then instead of marbles, I would say tic tac toe, probably drawn in the sand. Um, but yeah, like that's a good. I mean, it goes straight into that, um, and it's a different game. Hmm. Yeah, apparently that was supposed to be hopscotch, or like the skipping stones are technically hopscotch. Oh well. Okay, yeah. Why is that's stupid. But anyway, apparently that's. But apparently that was supposed to be hopscotch originally. I don't see it being hopscotch, uh, and unfortunately, that's just not. I don't know. I don't think it really. I think doing hopscotch like I said, where it's literally hopscotch and they just jump. Um, they jump like one foot and try to do the that hopscotch. Um, I don't know if that would work. If not that, honestly, because it's so similar to stepping stones, I would say monkey bars. Put monkey bars instead. That way, it calls back to the more physical aspect, or also calls back. It still ties in the playground theme, with like something like where something like dodgeball would be. But yeah, so monkey bars would be that area, and then after that, it would be Foursquare, which would guarantee to eliminate down to three. And then if there's still people, hide and seek or tag, to just eliminate that final person. And then final game, I would say, would be right here, tetherball, and you'd get your winner. That's what I would see for the Squid Game second season. Now, as far as the Squid Games themselves, the Squid Game itself, as far as everything plot wise that's gonna go on with the Squid Game, no clue. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff and I'm very excited to see what they'll do with like the main character and everything, because his sort of journey from that first season was so interesting, and just trying to see. I hope they don't just essentially, and this is going to get into spoilers. I hope they don't just essentially turn him into the guy who is trying to hunt down the um I hope he doesn't just turn into I hope he does play the game again to try to um in order to, like, I hope he does actually play the game to try to um destroy the Squid Games, because essentially his goal at this point is he wants the Squid Games to end. He wants to try to find a way to expose it. So somehow I hope they do something different, and he's not just a repeat, or they don't just repeat his what the story of the police officer um in the first season, and I hope they just don't repeat his story just with the main character, because that would be very sad if that's what they end up doing. I hope that they don't. I don't expect them to do that. I feel like the writing in the first season was good. That they didn't really. I didn't really think that they were going to do that. Like, I don't feel like. I feel like they're smart enough to realize that that would be a dumb mistake. Um, but I mean, I never know with some of the things that are written. Uh, Sometimes they greatly disappoint me, but I hope that season 2 will. I mean, hopefully it does well, and hopefully it's because it's gonna be, man, it's probably gonna be another year. Um, Basically, it's gonna come out. I think it's supposed to be late 2024, maybe early 2025. I don't know. Honestly, uh, yeah, I really don't remember what the release date is supposed to be um, for that. But yeah, it's this is what I hope to see, is like this sort of playground um, inspired. This because this is kind of the quintessential American playground inspired. I don't know if other countries have a different kind of idea of the playground, but yeah, let's just oops, let's just get back here. Um, Let's get it off of Napoleon Dynamite because that'd be weird to end this conversation with that image. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's just honestly that's probably that's what I hope. Um, Honestly, I just hope the characters are as good as they were in the first one. That they were really interesting. Uh, their stories were super interesting, and yeah, I know. And like these glasses are supposed to help with my vision, but they definitely do show up like as a glare. Um, so I really have to like look down in order to see to see it, but or maybe look up. But anyway, yeah, like that's kind of what I hope. And those are the games out of these games that I've showed that's kind of what I would love to see, or at least that's my vision for what the Squid Game season 2 would be, is like at least like if I were writing it, that's what I would do. I would have the jungle gym, the king of the hill jungle gym. Um, so yeah, like going back and recapping: King of the Hill, Jungle Gym, Red Rover, Dodgeball, uh, Tic Tac Toe, um, Foursquare. Although, after was it really Tic Tac Toe and then no Tic Tac Toe, then uh, Monkey Bars, and then Foursquare, and then probably I would say hide and seek would be more interesting than tag. So hide and seek, and then tetherball, and then those that would just be the way I would um, have the games. Although technically hide and seek is basically the whole lights out situation. It's basically what hide and seek is. Um, yeah, that's basically already hide and seek, but yeah, just like in an official game. So maybe it would be tag because, like I said, hide and seek is basically the lights out situation is hide and seek. But either way, that's kind of where I see those are kind of like if I were writing it, that's kind of how I would go. Is I would do that would be the games that I would have in the Squid Games. Now, as far as the backdrop of what story plot line, overall overarching plot, I don't know. I don't have any idea what they could do, what they're doing with that. Um, I really don't even think like I don't even know what I would suggest to that because it's like I just think I'm just curious to see what it's going to be because I really don't have when it comes to the overarching plot. I really don't have an answer for that. I don't have like a way to write that. But this is something that I feel like is a way I could visually show what I would hope for the next season. But yeah, it doesn't answer any of the questions of the overarching plot. The only thing I could say is maybe include uh, the Squid Game expanding to other countries, and that's the only thing when it comes to the overarching plot that I could add add my 2 cents of. I think that would be an interesting to see, and maybe have like the VIPs do something instead of just standing around making weird jokes. I mean, I don't really like the VIPs as characters, but they're intentionally meant to be unlikable. So I kind of understand what they're meant to be. But if there's a reason for them existing, it would be because they're trying to expand into other like that's the only reason I can say for their existence is aside from the obvious criticism of of what it means and what the obvious criticism is. Um, like it's interesting because it's like aside from the obvious critique, uh, or obvious like social commentary. I mean, um, well, it's not really obvious, but aside from the social commentary about capitalism, they don't really serve a purpose unless the purpose is to show that there's interest in other other countries have interest in these games. So potentially, like I said, potentially that means it expands to other countries with the players as well, and potentially the game themselves itself. Uh, and instead of just one Squid Game, maybe there's another Squid Game in America. Maybe there's a Squid Game in England. Like, it could be anything really. But yeah, just that's the only thing when it comes to the overarching is just how does Squid Game evolve into more of an international level threat? Um, because it would be a threat, yeah. But yeah, I mean, just how does it change from going from just this game that uh in South Korea or whatever that's this dystopian underworld game in Korea to becoming a literal, I mean, and maybe this is commentary on its own success, but like how does it expand to other like to become literally a literal international phenomenon? Um, it could be its own commentary on its own success, which would be very interesting. And I'm curious to see what that commentary would be. Uh, but yeah, I mean, as for that, that seems to be that's pretty much all I have in terms of this discussion for this. I'm still waiting for like other news to break to see if I can't um, do another discussion. But I mean, as far as this goes, I think this is probably gonna be the last. Uh, Maybe the last thing I do on my old computer, and then I'll probably be switching to my newer one, or I might try. I think I'm gonna try. Like I said, next time. I think I mentioned this in the PlayStation. Wow, why did I say PlayStation? In the Pokemon randomizer finale, my like potentially doing something with my PlayStation and potentially seeing how I can stream games from my PlayStation and seeing how that's gonna work and seeing if that's something that can be I can be more efficient with by doing something like that, or just seeing how possible how that possibility what kind of possibility that would be for me to stream through my PlayStation. But yeah, as for that, as for this discussion, I mean that's kind of where it's gonna end and where I'm gonna wrap up. And thanks for watching, everyone, on whether you're watching Twitch, YouTube. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Hatters, for showing up. And I don't know if I'm gonna. It does sound cheesy, but uh, I don't know. Again, I don't know if I'm going to use this as a sign off for. I don't know. It's definitely something I'm working on, but for a sign off, I guess. Thanks Hatters for sticking around, and thanks for staying mad. Goodbye.